Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the Thanksgiving edition of the Guerilla Sports Daily. We're going to go through plenty of things we're thankful for. How about I bring the mic closer? I'm going to be thankful by bringing the mic closer. So let's start there. Okay, here's what we're thankful for. Not just having the ability to talk and hear and see and all of that. I am in the mountains for the holiday and excited that I've been able to work from here. And then excited that as great as so many Thanksgiving traditions are, without question, the best part of Thanksgiving for me is Thursday, Thanksgiving Day football, and it has been my whole life. On Wednesday's episode of Off Field, Nate and I talked about our favorite Thanksgiving dishes. We're going to get to maybe a little Thanksgiving stuff here towards the end. But my Thanksgiving, as a kid who grew up in Dallas and as a reluctant Cowboys fan, like you're not going to meet too many Cowboys fans like me that are so, I mean, there'll be plenty that are aggravated, but like I can't abandon the team I grew up cheering for, but I get almost no joy when they win because that keeps Mike McCarthy employed. And when they lose, I kind of expect it, even though they've got a really talented roster. So this Thanksgiving is going to be a little different at my wife's family in the mountains. And so she doesn't have to cook. So I'm thankful that she just gets to make a couple sides and help out. She loves cooking Thanksgiving dinner, made one for some friends when I was covering the Broncos and Raiders last week. But it's just going to be about watching football, hanging out with my kiddos. Maybe we'll get on the slopes a little bit because there's been so much snow up here. But my Thanksgiving is not about the food. It's always about the Cowboys. It's always about football. And then I appreciate that the NFL, especially as we knew that the A&M and Texas rivalry for the time being was breaking apart. And I guess you had the Egg Bowl. But you didn't have a nighttime NFL game. And so they started that 15, 18, 20 years ago. And I want to say that maybe even the Broncos and Giants might have been the third Thursday football game, if I'm not mistaken. I need to double check that. But 3 NFL games means plenty of gambling, plenty of fantasy, plenty of excitement, plenty of entertainment to get you through your Thanksgiving Day, as you want to. Maybe not everybody loves spending time with family. I can acknowledge that. There's a big reason that the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving is the biggest drinking night of the year this side of New Year's, because folks are home and they know they have to spend all day with the uncle they don't like very much, or the aunt that annoys them, or the little cousin that's going to bother them, or parents nagging them, or grandparents, whatever it may be, or your cousin's, significant other that you just don't care for. And so you've got plenty of football to distract you. And you also have to remember the rules that when people come in and ask who's playing, you can say whatever you want. You can tell them the team names. You can make things up. You can say Jim McMahon's the quarterback for the Bears. Who cares? Barry Sanders is looking good today. If they ask who's playing, then they're not real sports fans and they don't really care who's playing. If they are real sports fans, they'll say, oh, I've got Jared Goff as my fantasy quarterback. How's he doing? I was having to help make the sweet potatoes, or I was having to work on green bean casserole, or whatever it may be. So how's Jahmyr Gibbs doing? Oh, has Montgomery scored? How's Caleb Williams look? If they come in and ask that, that's your early game. You got the Bears and the Lions. We know that the Lions and Cowboys have hosted forever on Thanksgiving Day. And so you get the Lions in the early window, Cowboys in the late window, and whatever enticing matchup the NFL wants to give you in the third and final game of the day. This year it is Miami in Green Bay. So we will check the weather there and see what that game is going to be. But we know the Bears have struggled throughout Caleb Williams' rookie year. We know Detroit is rolling. They're the best offense in football. They and the Ravens certainly are. And they have no problem stepping on the gas pedal, scoring 50 and giving you, as Bill Belichick used to always say, we're just giving them a chance to stop us. And so there's no reason to think that the Lions don't roll the Bears. I get it's a division game. We've seen the Bears play the Lions tough over the years. Even when the Bears have been good, we've seen the Lions play the Bears tough. But there's no reason that the Lions won't roll in this one in your Thanksgiving early game. It's a 10:30 kick. They started a half hour early instead of that Sunday 11 o'clock. Right now, the Lions are 9.5-point favorites. I think they win by 10. As talented as the Bears offense is. If you were going to lay money, I'd have a hard time with the Lions at home as a Super Bowl favorite, not only covering the 9.5, but maybe winning by more than that. You might want to even tease it up to 2 touchdowns, because that's how confident I feel. And it's a good time to have a lot of Lions players on your fantasy team. Your second game of the day is a game that, often ruins my Thanksgiving. I suppose if the Cowboys lose to the Giants, I'll be a little bummed, but it also will stop the idea when you hear Jerry Jones say this week that maybe they're going to extend Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy is the worst coach to ever win a Super Bowl. With apologies to the guy that replaced Don Shula. What's his name? Like John Hafferty. I can't remember his name. I need to look that up. Haggard. Whoever it was, the guy that came in for Don Shula and won Super Bowl 5 with the Colts. Other than that, John McCaffrey. Well, I need to look up his name. Either way, Mike McCarthy's the worst coach to ever win a Super Bowl. He's worse than John Gruden. He's worse than any coach you could think of. He is the worst football coach to win the Super Bowl. He's a terrible coach. He's the reason the Cowboys, it's a big reason the Cowboys stink, not having Dak Prescott now through the second half of the year because of his injury, not having Micah Parsons in the first half of the year. That didn't help. Trayvon Diggs coming back from injury, Deron Bland, all of that. Nonetheless, Cowboys are still 3.5-point favorites. I won't be surprised if they don't cover. The Giants are not good. The Giants are angling for that first pick, which would be the first time in 6 years they'd have it. But there's no reason to think that the Cowboys at home on Thanksgiving, and oftentimes, look, it's not as bad in Dallas as it is in LA with the Rams sometimes and the Chargers every game, or in Vegas with the Raiders. We saw plenty of Broncos fans there. We will see plenty of Broncos fans Thursday in a couple of weeks, the Thursday before Christmas on the 19th when they're at the Chargers. It will look certainly neutral, if not more like a pro Broncos crowd. But because Jerry World is so cool and because the Cowboys fan base is great, nationwide, the Cowboys fans will travel. They've got they're the home team in Arizona as much as the Cardinals are. They're the second or third most popular team in SoCal, probably behind the Raiders and Niners. And when they play in Denver every 8 years, when that happens, you get plenty of Cowboys fans that come. But at home, they're not great fans. It's a wine and cheese crowd. And plenty of fans will want – it's not the novelty it once was, but visiting fans will make their way in. Their one road trip to see their team might be to check out Jerry World. Again, it's less of a novelty with all the new stadiums that have popped up in L.A., Vegas, Minnesota, some of the really cool ones. Some ones that are coming, like Nashville, look really cool. And so it's not maybe what it was in the first decade they were open, but you still get lots of visiting fans, Packers fans, Steelers fans, of course. There's a lot of Giants fans, and there's plenty of New Yorkers that have made their way down to Texas, that live in Texas now. But it'll still be a pro-Cowboys crowd, and I think the Cowboys win the game. I'm not sure they cover. It won't be so surprising to me if Cooper Rush and company win this game 20-18 with a last-second field goal from Brandon Aubrey, who's, even despite his struggle, has been one of the best kickers in football. And then your nightcap, we need to check the weather, and I can do that right now. But you get the Dolphins, who are certainly trending back up with what their offense is doing, with Tua Tagovailoa being named Offensive Player of the Week. With what they're doing, you have to like their chances against the Packers, as the Packers are navigating injuries, and the Packers are firmly a playoff team. They're not as good as the Lions, but that NFC North, with what the Vikings are doing, what the Packers are doing, and obviously with the Lions, they're a really good division. It's the best division in football. Your forecast, though, it's not going to be warm. It's not going to be as cold as the last time the Chiefs went to their coldest game. They lucked out this year. Lots of times they get the short end of the stick and are in New England or in Baltimore, or in Buffalo late in the year. And so you get a team that is in South Florida all the time. There aren't a lot of players from the Northeast in the NFL compared to the players that are from the Sun Belt, from Florida, from Georgia, from Texas, from Louisiana, from California. So guys playing in cold weather when they're not used to it, and they didn't necessarily do that in college, it can be a struggle. And the Dolphins have struggled plenty. I get that Tom Brady and Josh Allen have had a lot to do with it, but the weather hasn't helped when Miami's had to go to the Northeast late in the year. It's going to be no precipitation and just 31 degrees for the high. So it'll be colder at night when they kick it off. It'll be 7:20 in Green Bay. But Packers at home are hard to beat. Jordan Love, despite the injuries, has been navigating it. Josh Jacobs, 3-touchdown game the other day. So you're going to have a really good offense against a really good offense. We do need to acknowledge Shaq Barrett coming out of retirement. He's been in Florida I know he's making his home in Colorado. That's where their permanent home is. But when I reached out to him when the Bucks, who he was last with, played the Broncos in week 3, Shaq is still in Florida. And he actually had just been in the CU-CSU game, I believe, but wasn't at the Broncos and Bucks game. Couldn't make it there that day. But he's living in Florida. He decides he got talked into it, and they need pass rush help. So we'll see if our guy Shaq Barrett and the Dolphins can I don't even know if he gets on the field yet, but the idea that he's coming out of retirement is just cool. That game is a 3.5-point line in favor of the Packers. I don't like them to cover. I think they win. I think that's a close game too. And I think we could see some offense that could be a 30-27 kind of game, which means that they're not going to cover, but you could see Brandon McManus for the third time since getting to Green Bay, including the first 2 weeks he was there, bang in a game-winning field goal kind of situation. But you have to be thankful for 3 NFL games on Thanksgiving Day. And while it's not the sexiest matchups, thanks in large part to just how crappy the Cowboys and Giants are, if the Bears give the Lions a game and you cap it off after you've had more turkey, you've had your nap, and you're ready to watch that nightcap, I think that ultimately that you're going to have a good day of Thanksgiving NFL football watching. And I didn't even check to see what the college football slate is, but I will very quickly. On Thursday, you're going to have one game, Memphis and Tulane. It's a 5:30 kick in Colorado, 6:30 if you're Central. I'm not getting into all the time zones. If you want to watch some college football, you can watch Memphis and the number 17 Green Wave. But then a whole slate on Friday. We'll get to that. Broncos have a different week too. Practice Wednesday, no practice Thursday because they have the Monday night game against the Browns. Before we look at that game quickly, though, shout out to Will Lutz, who for the second time this year has been named the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. And he bounced back from a kick that was going to go in against the Chiefs. We feel good about the trajectory of that kick. And Sean Payton said it. Ben Wika, the special teams coach, has said it. It was a good kick. Bad block, bad protection, but a good kick in Kansas City that would have won the game. Since then, 13-13. He's made 7 extra points. He made 5 field goals to go with two extra points in Vegas. He is your special teams player of the week for the second time this year. And I don't even know. I didn't double check. I can't remember the last time that the same Broncos player won a player of the week for the second time in the same season. And so props to Will Lutz for, I'm saying second Broncos player to win it in the same year. But Matt Prater, Jason Elam. Okay, there you go. Matt Prater, Jason Elam, and Brandon McManus twice in 20 and 21 have won it twice in the same season. Okay. I apologize. I read that wrong. He has now won it twice. That was the first press release. Let's read the second press release. This is always fun to read it. He's the 4th kicker to earn it with those guys. Brandon McManus did do it in weeks 4 and 6 of the 2020 season. Okay. So pretty special. And Will Lutz has been really good. It's a credit to him, how consistent he's been. He was going to sign with Jacksonville, like Brandon McManus, after he was cut here, went to Jayville for a year. Will Lutz was going to go to Jacksonville. Sean Payton gets him on the horn, says, look, I took a chance on you. John Harbaugh said, you got to look at this kid. He's not going to beat Tucker out, but he's a good player. Was a good player for a bunch of years in New Orleans. Sean gets him to Denver. He wins his kicking battles here. And next thing you know, he's your AFC Special Teams Player of the Week again. And clearly a good decision to not go to Jacksonville, but to stay in Denver, as we know Jacksonville is angling for perhaps the first pick and a new coach, and the Broncos are angling for playoff position. So let's look at the Broncos. Monday Night Football, their lone Monday night game of the year. There's a world where they could get flexed into it, but they play against a Browns team that's bad but dangerous. The Browns have not won a lot of football games, but they have a lot of talent, and they have a belief that you can sense with Jameis Winston. They're only 3-8. Jameis reviving his career now. He did play well for Sean Payton when he went when he started for him in New Orleans. Not 5-0 like Teddy Bridgewater, but he showed flashes nonetheless. New Orleans didn't keep him. Sean Payton didn't want to bring him in to be a backup. Cleveland brings him in, and he's got talent. Yes, they traded Amari Cooper, but Jerry Jeudy's playing well. David Njoku's as dangerous a pass-catching tight end. Nick Chubb is rounding back into form in the backfield with Jerome Ford. And they've got the best defensive player in football, at least this side of Pat Surtain, but certainly the most disruptive guy up front. Myles Garrett will tell you how good he is and how he's better than T.J. Watt. He made a point of saying that after they beat the Steelers and Russ and company on Thursday night last week. But the Browns and Myles Garrett are a defense that you have to be concerned about. The Broncos neutralized Myles Garrett a year ago. He was a non-factor in that game. Turns out I think he may have been sick, but the Browns have been playing really well. They come to Denver on that Sunday afternoon before they headed out to the West Coast because they stayed in L.A., and then I believe they played the Chargers the following week, or the Rams. I guess they played the Rams. But the Browns defense didn't do much against the Broncos. They had to go through a couple different quarterbacks. No Deshaun Watson, of course, but DTR played in that game. PJ Walker, I want to say, played in that game. Our guy Shelby Harris played, and so I want you to make sure to check out We're the Harrises. We're going to get a little clip from them. But Shelby, who makes his offseason home in Denver, was here on the bye week, and this is his permanent home and is a big part of what we do at Guerilla. Shelby, very complimentary on this week's episode of We're the Harrises, of the Broncos offense and of Bo Nix, and critical of all of the naysayers who thought that Sean Payton reached on Bo Nix or thought that Bo Nix wasn't a first-round pick. Bo Nix is proving that. That's why he's been AFC Player of the Week a week ago with what he did against the Falcons. He's been Rookie of the Week twice, and he is in very strong contention for the Offensive Rookie of the Year. He and Jaden Daniels, it feels like a two-person race with Brock Bowers on the fringe, but with the Commanders losing 3 in a row, Bo's numbers being as good now and in some cases better than Jaden Daniels. They're both 7-5. The Commanders may miss the playoffs. They're holding on to that final seed just like the Broncos. The Broncos' path may be a little easier, but I guess we'll see what the Saints and Cowboys give the Commanders. They also play the Titans, so maybe they figure it out, and the Commanders are squarely a playoff team. But the Eagles look like they're winning that division. They're 2 games clear of the Commanders, and they don't play them again this year, I don't believe. And so it could be where the Commanders slip out of the playoffs, and you're going to have a hard time if Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix's numbers are similar, picking Jaden Daniels to win the Rookie of the Year. But Bo Nix and the Broncos have to focus on the Browns. I do think they'll be able to run the ball against them pretty well. Maybe not great, but well enough. And I think they'll be able to throw the ball against the Browns secondary and pass defense. It's been okay as long as you can neutralize Myles Garrett and keep Shelby Harris and teammates out of the backfield, because we know they can be disruptive in the passing game. But it'll be fun to have the Broncos on Monday night, another primetime game. To this point, their only primetime game had been the Thursday nighter in New Orleans, which we know wasn't much of a game. It was a JV team out there for the Saints. But now you get the Browns, not very good, but you will have the full Monday night crew here with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and everybody. I don't believe there's a Manning cast that week, but it'll be fun to have the Monday night crew here on Monday. The Broncos are getting that extra day, practice Wednesday, getting Thursday off for Thanksgiving. They might do a walkthrough or whatever. Then Friday is their normal Thursday, Saturday is their normal Friday, and then Sunday they do their walkthrough, go stay at the team hotel. Now let's get to what we're thankful for in Colorado sports. And so we're going to start with not one, but 2 of your favorite college football teams heading to bowl games. The Rammies secured their bowl chances a few weeks ago. They're now 7-4. They play against Utah State Friday at 1:30 in the Fort. You can do a double dip, though, because I like their chances against the Aggies at Utah State. You can start your day in Boulder because you've got the Buffs and Oklahoma State in not only a game the Buffs must have, but a game where they're going to not only need to win, but need some help when they play against Oklahoma State. Again, that's a 10 a.m. kickoff. It's on ABC. So you can watch it on your local ABC. You don't even need to have cable. But their stumble against my beloved Jayhawks, and it was a weird game for me because Kansas football isn't Kansas basketball. I still like it when they do well, but I grew up a big Longhorns fan, and Kansas football hasn't been great. Nonetheless, Lance Leipold has them trending up as a program, and they were supposed to be really good this year. They returned their quarterback. They only lost 4 players in the portal. People were asking me last week before the Buffs, who are as hot as anybody in college football, were headed to Kansas City, not Lawrence, because they're building a new stadium in Lawrence where the Jayhawks home is, in Arrowhead, what to expect. And I said, look, they run the ball well. They've got a running back who could have gone to the NFL that came back. He's a Lawrence kid. He's set every now KU rushing record in Devin Neal. You saw him have a huge day against the Buffs, but they have a quarterback in Jalen Daniels, not to be confused with Jaden Daniels, banged up most of last year. He came back. They only lost 4 players in the portal. So I said, it's going to be a dangerous game, but the Buffs can win. So I wasn't actively cheering for the Jayhawks. I wasn't cheering against them. Our pal Chris Harris from We're the Harrises, he was cheering against the Buffs. He doesn't care if the Buffs go to the Big 12 title game. We do. At Guerilla Sports, we love covering the Buffs and following them. That's why we were covering them in Kansas City and why we'll be at the game on Friday in Boulder. But at 10 o'clock, you get the Buffs and Oklahoma State, and CU is a 16.5-point favorite against the Pokes, who also were projected to be a lot better. But at 3-8, Mike Gundy's squad, certainly not what a lot of people thought they'd see from the Cowboys this year. But you're also going to need Houston to beat BYU. You're gonna need a lot of help. You're gonna need not only Houston to beat BYU, you're gonna need K-State to beat Iowa State. And I think if those two things happen, then the Buffs are in. If Arizona beats Arizona State, that makes it even easier. But the most likely scenario, if the better teams win in all the matchups, is Arizona State will play Iowa State, I believe, in a Big 12 title game that might have 20,000 empty seats. If the Buffs are there, I think it'll be sold out. But otherwise, I think it will be tough to get folks to the Big 12 game. But you still have the Buffs. So I said we're thankful for the Rams going to a bowl game, the Buffs going to a bowl game, and we know that means we get to see Shedeur and Travis one more time at least. If they go to a bowl game and aren't in the playoff, and in order for them to do that, they have to not only get some help to get to the Big 12 title game, but win it. Otherwise, the rankings are out, and with 3 losses, they're just not getting in. They're not strong enough. The Big 12 is not strong enough. If a 3-loss team comes, it's going to come from the SEC. It's not going to come from the Big 12. It's not going to be the Buffs. But you've got to be thankful, if you're a Colorado sports fan, for what Coach Prime has meant to college football and to the University of Colorado and to Boulder, for what they've been able to do in his short time there at CU in the head coach's chair, to take him from being perhaps the most irrelevant program in all of then the Power 5, now the Power 4 conferences, but big-time college football, and to think of what they were under Bill McCartney, under Gary Barnett, with a Heisman winner in Rashawn Salaam, with a national champ, with my boy Alfred Williams, and that great Buffs team with Darian Hagan and Eric Bieniemy, and we could go down the list, our pal Chad Brown, and so many others. What they were with Cordell Stewart, and how exciting that was, even with Rick Neuheisel and company. And so to think where they were just a couple of years ago, and at the end of the Carl Durrell tenure, and when Mel Tucker left them high and dry, and when Mike McIntyre wasn't great, after John Embry, the local product, who wasn't great, even though we like Embo and what we thought he could do in Boulder. And of course, the Dan Hawkins time where technically they beat Alabama in a bowl game, even though it was because Alabama got disqualified for having, I believe, either recruiting violations or illegal players. But for what the Buffs were and what they are now and where they're headed, with Juju Lewis, with hopefully Jordan Seaton staying, with some of the young guys they have, and not only Julian Lewis coming in, but will Juju be the Pied Piper that we think he might be? And will we see more 5-star high school recruits and 4-star recruits and more transfers that want to come be a part of what Coach Prime is building? Will Coach Prime stay? But with what he's been able to do with his sons, with Shedeur specifically, not that Shiloh hasn't helped, but with Shedeur, and then obviously with Travis Hunter, who's like an adopted son, who is going to win the Heisman. He's now the odds-on favorite in a couple of weeks on December 14th when they have that ceremony in New York City. I've been fortunate enough to be able to cover it, work at it, and go to it 5 times. It's a really special night. It's such a sad thing that Rashawn Salaam's no longer with us and can't be there to see the second Buff get that award. But to see what Travis Hunter has brought and what Shedeur and ultimately what Coach Prime have brought to Boulder, I think we have to be thankful for. We talked about the Broncos. We should be thankful for what Bo Nix and the Broncos are giving them as well. But beyond what we think Bo Nix will be and what Sean Payton is, and the Broncos being relevant in the playoffs, there's some other things here in Colorado sports we have to be thankful for. And of course, when you have the best player on the planet in the sport of basketball, in Nikola Jokic, when he's not there, you see how much they struggle. When he is there, they don't win every game, but he makes things so much easier. You've got 3-time MVP who's playing like now, a 4-time MVP, should have won the MVP 2 years ago when Joel Embiid won it. They did win a championship, and he won MVP of that series. But when you've got the best basketball player on the planet, you have to be thankful for that. And so be thankful for as long as you have them, basketball fans, Nuggets fans, whether Joker plays another 3 years, another 5 years, another 8 years, another 10 years, whatever it is, go to as many games as you can that he's playing in, watch as many games as you can, because you are truly lucky. You've got the best player in basketball, plays right in downtown Denver at Ball Arena. And on top of that, you have not one, but 2 of the very best hockey players, including the best defenseman in hockey and the reigning most valuable player in the NHL as well, in Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. And yes, they've been up and down this year, and injuries and goaltending concerns have had them struggle out of the gate, and then obviously rip off 5 in a row and kind of bounce back and forth. There's hope. They get their captain back in Gabe Landeskog. There's very little doubt one of these 2 guys, and most likely Cale Makar will be the next captain. But somebody messaged me when I was reposting some of our great Guerilla hockey content that Jesse Montano and Megan and the crew bring you, that they need to go ahead and just give the captain's C to Cale Makar now. They just aren't going to do it. They don't strip captains who are still a part of the roster. If he retires tomorrow, then they will either go the rest of the season with that or slap a C on Cale Makar's sweater. But it's coming. It's just not a question of if, it's a question of when. Nonetheless, the fact that you have these guys and will have them likely their entire careers, you never know how the ends of careers go, but that you've got Nathan McKinnon, who's a bulldog, who is nonstop, who is so intense, and he brings up everyone's level. And then Cale Makar, who every time you see what he's doing on the offensive side of things, and he's being compared every time in the record books to Bobby Orr, is the only name ahead of his in most categories. You have to be thankful for both Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon. And we're really lucky that you have those guys playing in your backyard 41 times a year plus playoffs. And so cherish that. That's something to be thankful for, Colorado sports fans. And then finally, final thing that you should be thankful for, well, Coors Field. It's a great place to spend a night or an afternoon when the Rockies are playing. You'd love to see a competitive team, back-to-back 100-loss seasons. Our pal Bud Black's back. I think Bud's a good manager. They do have some young talent. Brenton Doyle wins a Gold Glove for a second straight year. Ezekiel Tovar's one of the best young shortstops in baseball. Probably should have been an all-star. Ryan McMahon as an all-star, but with especially Zeke Tovar, Brenton Doyle, what Nolan Jones can be, what Brendan Rodgers had been. But when you look at those guys, you've got some building blocks. You've got some young pitchers you like. But at the very least, you have Coors Field, and you can go there 81 times a year and enjoy a great atmosphere, maybe see some Major League Baseball, but you at least have that to get you through the spring and summer when maybe the Nugs or Avs aren't playing, or before you get into football season. And hopefully one day they're competitive again, and it'd be cool if it was this year, but I'm not holding my breath. Finally, we get to Thanksgiving, and our pals, the Harrises, Chris Harris, Shelby Harris, Ryan Harris, every week they're breaking down football, but they ended their show, and you can catch this week's episode. We'll have it posted everywhere. But Ryan Harris asking, what is a staple, your 3 must-haves? So I'm going to let you hear them weigh in, and then I will weigh in with my 3 Thanksgiving must-haves.
Top 3, gotta have them on Thanksgiving. Shelby, come on, you're playing this week, so it's a little different, but go ahead, kick us off. What you gotta have?
Man, my top 3 is a little different because I hate turkey. So turkey's dry, it tastes like paper. We could go on and on and on.
You've been eating turkey with, but go ahead.
But we could, man. I've been eating. I haven't been eating turkey, but I'll tell you this. My top 3 is this. Well, what I make perfect is a prime rib. I make a prime rib every Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Who I'm talking about is chef's kiss.
Did we get the recipe? Did the listeners get the recipe? I mean, what's the they don't get the special
a chef doesn't reveal his secrets. You just gonna have to come try it at the house. You feel me? Like that. That's what we're gonna have to do. But I'll say that you gotta have the prime rib. You gotta have a mac and cheese, and then my random thing that I actually love that I tried at one of my friends' Thanksgiving one year in high school when I was at home alone, and I got one of my friends came and took me to theirs, green bean casserole.
Oh yeah.
I actually love me a good green bean casserole. And I'm the only one in my house that really eats it. My wife makes it for me every year because it's one of my favorites. I don't know why. It's the the green beans, how soft they end up being, but then also with the crunchy French onions on top of it. You cannot beat it.
I'm going with the mac and cheese. You gotta have the mac and cheese right. If the mac and cheese is wrong, you ruin my day. I'm gonna go with the smoke. My wife smokes the turkey. Smoked turkey. That's the real deal, man. You gotta let it sit in there for almost a day. It feels like they're cooking forever, right? And then I'm gonna go with dessert, man. I gotta have the pecan pie, peach cobbler, all on deck. You gotta have the desserts right. A little splash of ice cream on the side, right there, just to end the day right. You gotta have that dessert.
I'm starting with number 3, green bean casserole. I'm with you, Shelby. Not only do I love it, like if you have green bean casserole at your house, I am Shark Tanking that thing. I'm really judging it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna say anything to anybody, but there, it's gonna have a place on my list of green bean casseroles for the same reasons too, the crunch and the nutritious fiber element. You know what I'm saying? Number 2, I'm going with the turkey. I've been in a Thanksgiving where the turkey doesn't happen. If that happens at your Thanksgiving, be kind. That person is having a meltdown. But number 1, I'm going like you, Chris. I mean, we all must be Harris. I'm going though with sweet potato pie. I haven't made it to the pecan pie, kind of growing into it, but I must have sweet potato pie. It will happen, and it's something that I can have no turkey. I can have no green bean casserole. I must have sweet potato pie. And if you don't know what it is, we're upset with your friends. Fire your friends on Thanksgiving. Go get some sweet potato pie. Pumpkin's not the only one.
If we talk about dessert, man, that's a whole nother game. You gotta go. That's a whole nother game. We talk about, we talk about dessert. It's either apple pie is second, but banana pudding. You gotta have a good banana pudding on Thanksgiving. That's just how it was in my household when we grew up.
All right, that's their 3. My 3 that you have to have. I don't love turkey. I don't hate it the way Shelby hates it, but I don't look forward to it. I'm not like, I can't wait for Thanksgiving turkey, but you still have to have turkey. I think you have to have some sort of sweet potato, mashed potato. You have to have a really good strong potato dish. And as much as I like green bean casserole, you have to have some sort. I think Chris Harris was right. You have to have some sort of dessert. Pecan pie or pecan pie, the way some people say it. Pumpkin pie, apple pie. I'm an apple pie guy. With some whipped cream on it. That's going to be the way I'm going to go. We brought some pies up to the mountains that I ruined because I left them in the car and they froze. And then I think my 6-year-old stepped on them on top of that. So they've been replaced. So we're good there. But I think no matter what you have, just be thankful because there are some people that don't get to have the same Thanksgiving that everybody else has. And so be thankful that you're getting to spend some time with your family. You're getting most likely a day off work unless you work in or around the NFL or the other pro sports. College sports might be doing something, but we know lots of leagues will take the day off. So be thankful for your friends. Be thankful for your family. We are so thankful for our great viewers or anyone that listens to our podcast or checks out all of our content all across our social platforms here at Guerilla Sports. We're still an infant of a company, if you will. We've been going for a little more than a year, but we are just scratching the surface of what we are doing. So we're so thankful to so many people that have been a big part of it, including our friends at Landmark Lincoln, who are helping us do a lot of really cool things. And then everybody behind the scenes. I'm going to see if I get everybody right. Jay, who's helping me with this show. Mark, who's our camera whiz. Chloe, who runs our social media. Andy and Ruben, great editors and camera people. Scott, who does all our graphics. John, who runs our studio. Carrie, who helps him. Now Thomas, who's in the mix as well. And then all of our friends on camera, including the Harrises, Chris, Ryan, and Shelby, have been such a big part of what we do. And then Megan and Jesse with everything they're doing with hockey. And Liv and Nate. And then our guys behind the scenes, Blake, who makes it all run, who helped started the company, and we've been helping him. And Matt, who is our CFO. I think I remembered everybody. If I didn't, Jay, you'll have to remind me, but I think I nailed the whole company. And then Nate Jackson, I think I said he and Liv, myself, Brandon, Krisztal, so happy to be a part of such an exciting company. And we've got so many cool things on the horizon in the coming months and years, and happy that you're going to be a part of it with us. Black Friday's tomorrow. You don't have to hit the stores like you used to thanks to online shopping. If you do, please be kind to your fellow shoppers and don't wrestle things away from people. Don't run anybody over, run it into a store, and know that Guerilla Sports merch is coming as well. So while we won't necessarily have any Black Friday stuff for you, maybe by the time Christmas rolls around, our store will be up and running, and you'll be able to buy some Guerilla Sports stuff for the favorite sports fan in your life. So I'm going to get out of here. Going to watch some football for Thanksgiving. Appreciate you rocking with us on the Guerilla Sports Daily Special Thanksgiving episode. Thanks again, Jay, and we will catch you next time here from Guerilla Sports.